right, what's up? Good morning, PT on Ice Daily Show. Dr. Jeff Moore here, currently serving as the CEO of ICE, lead faculty for cervical and lumbar division. I apologize for my voice. I hope you all can hear me okay. A couple things are going on. Number one, we wrapped up a great course up in Nanaimo in British Columbia. So the voice is always kind of worn out on Monday morning. But number two, I am in an Airbnb with my folks. My wife and I and kids and my folks are going to stay here for a few days because we're going to ferry over and knock out a course in Seattle. From Victoria to Seattle on Friday. So we're all crashing here, so I'm trying not to be too loud. It's 5:30 in the morning over here on the West Coast. So good morning. First of all, thank you so much to Jake and the crew at Advanced. What a great time in Nanaimo. Always wonderful being up here in Canada. Just incredibly engaged students, great folks, beautiful facility. We had a wonderful time. Thanks to Zach and Alexis Morgan for helping out. Very, very good time. So looking forward to more. We're going to be up here through AMP Physio. We'll be up in Canada 4 times a year, kind of ongoing between Vancouver and Victoria. So if you're up in British Columbia and you're doing the ICE certification or you want to get more involved, we're going to be up here all the time. So keep an eye out. All those courses are on ptonice.com as always. So good morning, guys. And here's what I want to talk about this morning. So we're doing this Q&A thing, right? You guys are seeing it on Instagram. You're seeing it in our different outlets on Hump Day Hustling, that every week we're taking one question from you and just trying to offer a bit of feedback and some thoughts. And the one that came in this week, the one that we chose, quite a few came in, was, how do you get better at taking feedback? And I love that question. We've dabbled on that on PT on Ice numerous times over the years. But it's great that we're asking that because it speaks to the fact that we acknowledge that it's a skill, right? It's a skill that can be nurtured and developed. And boy, do I agree with that. I think over the years, if you are attentive to it, I think your ability at absorbing feedback and putting it into utility can escalate dramatically, can absolutely escalate dramatically. Hey, what'd you say there? Get a drop in at CrossFit Lolo while in Victoria. Okay, we might do that. So we got a strength and performance gym here in Tofino, but we do have one night in Victoria, so I very well might check that out. Thanks for the tip. So it absolutely can be fostered and developed. And I think that if you have a crew that has that as a compass or a focus, that can be escalated and can happen quite rapidly. So I think the key thing to first of all recognize is that, hey, what's up, Nick, is that indeed is a skill that can be changed. And then you've got to think about, if that's the case, what environment makes for quality repetitions, right? So if I do believe that it's a skill, if I do think that it's malleable and plastic and I can change it, how do I get myself in a good position to get good reps so I can get better? Right. So when does a good rep happen with feedback? It happens when your gloves are down, right? When your gloves are down, when you can incorporate what the other person's saying, when actual transformation takes place and is legit, right? That truly changes your character or your performance. It is critical to realize that when it comes to feedback, that is really an environment when 2 things are essentially on board. Number 1 is trust, right? You absolutely trust that the other person's agenda is only to make you better. That kind of trust is earned, right? In the deeper or the more emotional the feedback area, which also means the more valuable, right? The more important that trust is, and the more challenging it is to earn that level of trust. The same is for an awareness of asymmetry. So the 2 key things that make for a quality feedback rep is number 1, trust. Right? You believe that person's only trying to make you better. They have no malicious intent. It's all about you and all in the best way. And number 2 is an awareness of asymmetry. So you absolutely believe that the person giving you the feedback is better than you in that space, or at least has an ability to see better than you in that space, right? Again, the more vulnerable or the deeper the area, the more emotional the area that you're receiving feedback in, the more you have to truly believe, own, and recognize that asymmetry, which means you're going to have spent, some considerable time, quality time around this human to develop and absolutely be convinced that you trust them and that they are dramatically better than you in this space. That takes time. The mentor has to earn that from you over a long period of time. If when really serious, uncomfortable feedback is going to come out, you can be defenseless, gloves down, and transform. That is an earned relationship. It is okay. I would say it is mandatory if you only have that type of a relationship with a handful of people. I would go as far as saying I think it's inappropriate to expect that those things could be earned across a huge amount of people, and you could be in that position to accept that kind of feedback and get those good reps with almost anybody. That just isn't reasonable because those things come with time. And they come with going through challenging circumstances with that individual and watching them react and watching them behave. That is where trust and asymmetry of skill, that is where beliefs in those things develop. So the first thing I really want to say in response to the question, how do I get better at feedback, is you've got to be sometimes, I don't want to say the word careful, although that's kind of what's in my head. You've got to be aware that there's only going to be a handful of folks in your world at any given time that you are really in a relationship with, that you can accept feedback at the purest level. That is okay. I think you have to embrace that, acknowledge that, and accept that. The challenge then, and what I would say is that some of the sequela of things like social media are really making this more difficult because if you aren't aware of this, you can be bombarded with feedback because the microphones now are so much bigger and the audiences are so much more dilute, right? And so I speak a lot about that as far as some of my personal challenges and frustrations with networks and growth is that nowadays your microphone can be barked out to people that you have barely any, if any at all relationship with, and they can give you direct feedback. You can see the problem here, right? The problem is trust isn't there and asymmetry of knowledge isn't there. Asymmetry of skill isn't there. The things that make for a great repetition aren't on board, yet the feedback is present. This is a problem because it leads to a number of things, but one of those is that if you do entertain the feedback, it can lead to really bad repetitions because you're entertaining feedback from people where the essentials of good repetitions aren't on board. And so you really aren't taking it all that seriously because you don't value the other person's opinion. It's not that you disvalue it. It's not that you don't like, you just don't have a relationship there. And so what I would encourage you to do, and I'm sure this will rub some people the wrong way, but if you want my honest answer on how do you get better at taking feedback, one of the keys is ignoring a lot of it. If you are putting yourself in a position where your message is getting out to a lot of people where you have absolutely no relationship with them, if you try to take every single piece of feedback seriously and really meditate on it and allow it to change you and be vulnerable to it, I think you're going to get feedback fatigue. And I can't imagine that you're going to be able to continue getting good reps. And if you don't get good reps, I can't imagine you're going to get good. So I think one of the most important things with feedback is ignoring a lot of it. Now, do not totally mishear that. Like if you are getting consistent trends of feedback from a large amount of people, even if those relationships are dilute, I think you ought to be aware of that. But I do think it's challenging to take each piece of feedback and go through a transformation process, right, on folks where a relationship is not currently in place. So I think giving yourself that grace is the most important piece of advice that I can give to you, knowing that there is going to be a handful of people you've developed a deep relationship with throughout your career and your life, whose feedback you should put your gloves down and literally allow to transform you in the most defenseless, pure manner possible. That is such an amazing human evolution. But you also have to kind of intentionally keep your gloves up when the relationship isn't there. So you're not doing kind of half-assed reps on people who are giving feedback when the relationship isn't in place and it doesn't really have the right to transform you in the same way. I think if you can think about that a bit and in sort of shove off some of the excessive feedback where the relationship isn't there, you're going to be able to get a lot better a lot faster. That's the best advice I can give you. In the modern era, I think that's the best advice that I can give on how to get better at receiving feedback is monitoring the situations upon where you're open to receiving it. And then when you are open, being a completely open. being a vessel that is just getting poured into. If you can be aware of those two things, this skill set can develop rapidly. So I hope there's some value there, and I hope you go away from here thinking it's okay you only have X amount of folks who you are super, super open on the most intimate subjects, taking feedback from and allowing it to transform you, and not thinking that you're falling short because of that. I hope that message has value. So thanks, everybody. I hope you all have a great Monday. For those of you who are going to be in Seattle, I'll see you on Friday. So we're going to ferry over. We've got a sold-out course over in Kirkland. We've got a hilarious faculty team. We've got myself and Zach and Alexis and Britt and Jordan. I don't think Dan's going to be able to make it. Justin Dunaway is going to be there. So we've got a whole crew over in Kirkland. So my family's going to be over there with me. Going to be an awesome weekend in Seattle. Until then, folks, I'm not sure if I see you on Thursday or if Alan is up. But have an awesome week. Enjoy clinic. Enjoy whatever you're doing. PTOnIce.com if you want to grab some courses. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.